It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and we're wrapping up July 1991 with July 26th. We got 6 movies to look at, and usually when we do these, there's usually one movie that sticks out as a movie that is the best of the best out of everything that comes out. This weekend, not so much. All six of these movies are movies that I've either never heard of, or movies that were just so bad that they completely left my radar immediately after I saw them. Case in point with our first movie here, we've got Christian Slater, Patrick Dempsey, Richard Grieco, and Costas Mandylor in Mobsters. Because why not do Young Guns except to replace the Western aspect with the mobster movie aspect? I mean, why not? I mean, every other major studio at the time had a mobster movie out there. Paramount had The Godfather Part 3, Warner Brothers had Goodfellas, Disney had Dick Tracy, Fox had Miller's Crossing. So Universal said, what the hell, let's get on in here and put out our own mobster movie. Yeah, you probably should have spent more time on the script than actually just making a movie just because everybody else was doing it, because, oh boy, this was a rough one. This was a bad, bad movie. I mean, these are great actors that are in this movie, not just the 4 leads in here, but F. Murray Abraham, Michael Gambon, Anthony Quinn. You have Lara Flynn Boyle in here. You have Joe Vitrelli, Chris Penn. Just these great actors in here, and it's just like, you've given them absolutely nothing to do. This is a really bad mobster movie. I mean, this is about as generic and formulaic of a mobster movie as you can get. Everything that you've seen in The Godfather, everything that you've seen in The Goodfellas, Once Upon a Time in America, all these other movies we've talked about, it's all in this movie, and it's written so badly. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad this movie is. And Christian Slater wanted this movie to be like Bugsy, the Warren Beatty movie, and the fact that he said that, and he was comparing this movie to Warren Beatty's Bugsy, which would come out later in the year and be a much better movie. Just, I don't get it. I don't get what they were thinking with this movie. It's a bad movie all around. It's just a generic mess of a film. It has nothing really exciting about it. There's nothing that stands out about it. It's a movie that was clearly made by Universal because everybody else was making a crime movie that was either becoming successful or was relevant at the time period, and it just didn't work. It just did not work. It's a movie that's such a gigantic mess. This movie makes Gangster Squad look like The Godfather by comparison, and that movie was rough to watch too, but there was at least more enjoyment out of that movie than this movie was. This was just a bad movie all around. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next lackluster film, and that was, if I can get it right here, V.I. Warshawski, starring Kathleen Turner. Another movie with a lot of notable names in there, not just Kathleen Turner, but you have Charles Durning in here, half the cast of half the supporting characters from Seinfeld, Stephen Root from King of the Hill, and yeah, you could definitely see why this movie didn't take off so well. First off, the title, V.I. Warshawski, they really thought that was going to stick out as something that has to be a must-see movie. Maybe in someone else's hands, maybe they could have made this work, but yeah, not so much. But I mean, Kathleen Turner isn't a bad actress at all. I mean, we've seen her in great movies: Body Heat, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Romancing the Stone, Jewel of the Nile, War of the Roses. A lot of great movies with her in them, but I don't know. She just didn't I think she could have played this role if there was a better script involved, but it's like Mobsters. It's a very generic crime comedy script. I mean, there's nothing really here that stands out of everything, out of all the other movies that are very similar to this. And it just doesn't work. It's just not funny whatsoever. I mean, I tried to get something out of it, but it just wasn't there, man. And I don't know, maybe Jeff Kanu, who directed this, who also did True Beverly Hills and also Revenge of the Nerds, I don't think he's up to this challenge. Even though he tried to do something similar immediately after Revenge of the Nerds with Gotcha with Anthony Edwards, which wasn't a bad movie by any means, but it was a movie that just it wasn't really something that stood out, except I kind of preferred that movie better than this movie. But yeah, honestly, if you really want the best thing you could say about this movie, you could just go to the Flick Picks video from way back in the day when he saw this movie in a $5 bin, and basically the review would be basically this.
They got a huge selection of $5 Blu-rays here. Check this out. Look at all these great titles. Another Takeout. Straight Talk. Kathleen Turner. Fuck. This is when you know you're desperate. Oh my god, I'm a piece of shit.
I mean, that pretty much sums it up. You have to be desperate to really want to see this movie. So yeah, that's V.I. Warshawski for you. So, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. And as I try to go back to the page here to see what it is. And that is Mel Brooks' Life Stinks. What happened to you, Mel Brooks? What was this? Yeah. That trailer was rough. I mean, the last joke alone, like, Mel Brooks is much funnier than this. I mean, this is just... wow, what a mess of a movie this is. It's weird, too, because this is actually the second movie, the first of two movies, I should say, where you have a story like this. You have a rich guy going into kind of a ghetto slum type of an area in the city, because Joe Pesci would later do the same thing with The Super, which came out later on this year. But yeah, for Mel Brooks, this is unbelievably unacceptable. I mean, I can't believe that he thought that this was going to be something that people would want to see. But I mean, Mel Brooks can be very funny. We have seen Mel Brooks be very funny in the past, but this movie just feels like a really cheap knockoff of Trading Places, and not even in a good way. It's not funny. The setup here is nothing special. The jokes are just terrible. The writing is... it doesn't feel like a movie that you would expect from Mel Brooks. It's a mess of a movie. It's another one of those movies that has so much potential with the people involved. You have Mel Brooks, you have Leslie Ann Warren, you have Jeffrey Tambor, you have Stuart Pankin, you have Howard Morris. And this is the best you could get from them? This is a mess of a movie. This is a really bad movie on so many levels. Like, for Mel Brooks, this is completely inexcusable for how bad this movie is. And Mel Brooks' track record has not always been great, but he's had a lot more movies that were great than movies that were bad. This is probably the worst thing that he has been involved in as a writer and director. I mean, this is a mess of a movie. It's just a gigantic failure of a film on so many levels. And really, that's all I gotta say about it. I mean, that trailer alone just pretty much tells you everything you need to know about how bad this movie is. And, yeah, I guess they say it best. Life stinks, and also this movie really stinks. So, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. And it's another movie where you think you have the right ingredients here. Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder back together again. And then you get something like Another You. Yet again, another movie that wastes so much potential. I mean, there's so many things here that you think could work. Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder are very funny together. They usually are really fun, and occasionally they'll have a good moment here or there. But yeah, for the most part, they're completely wasted in this movie. You've got Mercedes Ruehl, who would later win an Oscar for The Fisher King. You've got Stephen Lang in here. You've got Vanessa Williams. You got Vincent Schiavelli from Ghost. You've got Kevin Pollak in here. You've got Phil Rubenstein. You've got, okay, I was going to say that there's more elements here, but, I mean, this movie is directed by somebody who doesn't even have a full page on Wikipedia, and it's written by Ziggy Steinberg, who also wrote such memorable movies as The Jerk 2 and Porky's Revenge, so maybe that's why this movie completely fails on so many levels, but, it's sad to watch these two guys really be wasted on something that's not really all that funny whatsoever. I mean, Richard Pryor only had a couple more movies after this, and this was literally the last thing Gene Wilder did in terms of being in a theatrical release, because after this, he was basically relegated to TV work. Like, he did something Wilder for NBC, and then he would occasionally appear on something like Frasier or one of these other TV shows before his death. But really, when you have Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, you need a good script for them to work with. This just proves that even with a bad script, they can't make this movie work as well as they want it to. I mean, it's a movie that just it fails on so many levels. It's another one of the examples of the many movies that we've looked at so far today. Great talent involved, just nothing there to show for it. I mean, it's a waste of a movie. If the best thing I could say about this movie, it has a funny intro with the TriStar Pictures horse. That's the best thing I could say about it. Then this movie really screwed up. I mean, yeah, there's nothing really more to say about this movie. It's a bad movie. It's a badly written film. It's not funny. All these great people are wasted on a script that doesn't work. It's a mess of a movie. It's just a mess on so many levels, and it just proves that no matter how many good people that you have involved in here, if the script ain't good and the director ain't doing a good job, then the movie's just going to fail easily. And lo and behold, that's another U for you. So we're 0 for 4 so far. Can William Hurt's The Doctor change that around? Kind of. I mean, it is the best movie that we've looked at on this show so far. I mean, that really isn't saying a whole lot compared to what we've looked at here, but at least there was an effort here to make something interesting. And it is, like I said, it is a very decent film. It's not a great movie all around, but I think what does carry it over are the performances. You got William Hurt in here, Christine Lottie, Mandy Patinkin, and Elizabeth Perkins in this. The director, Randa Hines, reunites with Hurt after they did Children of the Lesser God together. And it is a very good movie. It's a very solid film, I'll say. It does get a little melodramatic at times, but for the most part, it is a very good movie. It's a movie that I think a lot of people do need to see and give it another shot at. And like I said, it's the best movie that we've looked at so far this week. And that really isn't, like I said, that really isn't saying a whole lot, but at least we have a movie that at least had some good elements to it. So The Doctor at least did its job, so with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the last movie, The Dark Backward, a movie that I have never heard of, but surely it's got to be something interesting, right? I don't know what the hell I just saw. I mean, that's a lot to unpack right there. I mean, I don't really have an indication of what this is, of how good this movie is, if it's any good at all, or if it's just, it's one of those ideas where it's trying to be another Freaks for a New Generation. I don't know if it's trying to be a So Bad It's Good type of movie. I don't know what the hell they're trying to do here, but it does pique my interest a little bit, even if it is a bad movie. I feel like I have to see this at some point just to see what the hell they were trying to go for here. It could be a terrible movie on so many levels, but it could also be, like I said, another one of those So Bad It's Good type of movies. Like, they know that chances are this movie isn't going to play out as well as they want it to, but the writer and director of this is Adam Rifkin. If you don't know who he is, he's written some movies. He's written stuff like, mostly family films, like Mouse Hunt and also Underdog. He also directed The Chase with Charlie Sheen. He also did Detroit Rock City, which is a cult classic that came out at the end of the decade of the 90s. So at least he's done some notable stuff here, but this movie just feels really weird. Like he's trying to go through this David Lynch-esque type of stage in his career, but like I said, I gotta see the movie for myself, though, before I can truly judge it for what it is, so maybe one day I'll definitely will check it out, but yeah, not right now. But that trailer really does pique my interest in just which way it's going to go. Is it going to be bad? Is it going to be So Bad It's Good? Is it going to be a Freaks for a New Generation? Well, only one way to find out, and I will find that out eventually. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we jump into August of '91 with 4 movies, 2 classic comedies, including Hot Shots, and also Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox. We also have the horror thriller Body Parts, and also the sequel that everybody was waiting for, and that is Return to the Blue Lagoon. And I don't know why they were waiting for 11 years for it, but it's here, and we're going to talk about it next time around, along with the 3 other movies we mentioned. With that said, though, thank you guys for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I will see you folks tomorrow for another new episode. So thank you for watching, I will see you tomorrow, and until then, as always, take care.